Good morning, everyone. I'm just trying to make sure I am live on Instagram. Let's see. Just gonna wait to make sure I'm live on Instagram. I'm trying to go live on one screen today, just so my attention is on both screens. If you're on Instagram and you can see me, definitely comment. Let me know you can see me. If you can and it's clear, I think I'll do it this way so I can look at you guys at the same time for once because I'm always on one screen, but I figured out a way to do everything on one screen. Good morning, everyone. Okay, it looks like you guys can see me on Instagram. Yay. If you're on Facebook and you can see me, let me know. Also, if you're on YouTube and you can see me, definitely let me know as well. Okay, you guys can see me. Let me just put my phone number in here. Um, okay, at least this way you guys can see my phone number scrolling through the ticker. Good morning. Give praise. Yola Sand. Good morning, Law Bestie. Good morning to everyone. How's everyone doing? Um, let's talk immigration. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Let me know where you're tuning in from. My name is Aisha Chidowe, and I'm an immigration lawyer. I represent clients all over the United States with their immigration matters. We handle family immigration and humanitarian-based immigration, like VAWA cases, human trafficking, U visas, which is victims of a serious crime, complex RFEs, NOIDs, appeals, and all that fun stuff. Do you have an attorney called Attorney Mindy? Yes, Attorney Mindy Reynolds worked for our firm. She's an attorney here at the firm. Crystal DeRoche from Maryland, this is your first time. Welcome, welcome. Simply Carrie, let's jump right into it. Let's jump right into your questions. Simply Carrie on YouTube says, good morning. I have my interview coming up, but I have one traffic ticket on my record. Do you think I need a lawyer? It is always advisable in this administration to go with a lawyer to your interview if you can, because there are many variables of things that can happen. You don't go because you have a criminal record. You go because sometimes things can happen or occur at interviews where you either are not able to articulate yourself, or you have an officer that doesn't give you time to answer, or questions that you might not understand, or questions that might be asked as a way to kind of entrap you or compel you, like, to answer in a certain way. For instance, you can go, like, if you're someone who came here for example, on a tourist visa, and you filed for an adjustment of status, and now you're going to your interview, you can find yourself in a position where they might ask you a question in such a way that they're trying to figure out if you misrepresented yourself when you entered into the United States, or if you misrepresented yourself by saying that you were here on a tourist visa, but you were really planning to stay here permanently. And if you have a misrepresentation, then that means you become inadmissible, right? So I say that to say it is very important that you go with a lawyer unless your lawyer feels that you don't need that you'll be okay. Are there instances where we've have clients and I've adequately prepped them and I know that that they understand the questions that they're going to be asked, and we've gone over every variable, and I'm like, if you don't want to Harris to come with you to the interview, that's fine. Just take this with you. And I give them like a sheet of updates so that maybe they don't forget those things. And just so it just depends. That's really the answer. But I definitely recommend it. If you can. Okay. Suzette says, is it true that if you owe the IRS and have a payment plan, you can apply for citizenship under the new rules? This is absolutely incorrect. Yes. Someone is asking, I'll come back to you, Suzette. Someone is asking, do you have an attorney named Attorney Mindy in your chamber? Yes, Attorney Mindy Reynolds works at this law firm. I think I answered that earlier. Yes, if you owe IRS and have a payment plan, you can apply for citizenship. You absolutely can apply for citizenship. Let me explain how taxes work when it comes to citizenship. With taxes, you have to understand that as long as it's not that people don't owe taxes, it's that you're paying your taxes is what they're looking for. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a payment plan as long as you're making payments on the payment plan. What typically becomes a problem is if you owe taxes and you're not paying anything at all, and then all of a sudden you're applying for citizenship, and there's a taxes from like 2020, and all of a sudden you decide to set up a payment plan in 2025. When you do something like that, USCIS is going to be like, no, you're just doing this because you're applying for citizenship. So it's very important that you have that payment plan. Like if what you owe is from 2024's taxes, then that's fine because you're literally in tax season. So it's fine to have a payment plan. The key is you just want to make sure that you're making payments on the payment plan. Okay. And you should still file for citizenship. But remember, outside of taxes, there are other things that you're going to consider as it relates to citizenship. And I'm happy to go over that with you guys. Favor Carrie. Hey, Favor, what's up? Favor is asking, let me see a question. It says, let's go back. It says, good morning, my lawyer. How do I renew my daughter's green card? It said that if she got it before 14, she'll have to renew. Well, I believe, I obviously know who this person is. Your daughter has a 10-year green card. So as long as she has a 10-year green card, she would not need to renew it until the 10-year expiration. Because she's under 18, what typically will happen is that when you become eligible for citizenship, which I believe is coming up, which is at the 3-year mark, so the earliest you'd file is basically 2 years and 9 months from when you got your green card. Once you become a citizen, she will automatically derive citizenship from you. So you'll be doing the N600, so she doesn't need to renew the green card anymore. She can just go straight to citizenship. So that's what my recommendation would be for you. Okay. Ahmed Gabber says, I sent an EAD, a work permit renewal, through a pending VAWA. My current EAD category is CO9P, and I received a receipt notice, but the class category was C31 since February, and so far I didn't receive my EAD or an approval letter. So a C31 usually indicates that your VAWA case has been approved. And typically a C31 may come before your approval letter. But if you're saying that you didn't get an EAD approval card, but what you got was a receipt notice, you're going to need to reach out to USCIS to let them know that this is incorrect and they need to send you a new receipt notice with a correct category. You're either going to need to do that by snail mail or like sending a letter, or through your attorney, who can then go directly through like email and go through the attorney hotline email to do it. Okay. If you have a pending marriage-based case that's been pending for 2 years, but your spouse was abusive and is incarcerated, so you file for VAWA, but you still got an interview for the marriage-based case, is it possible to have them converted to a VAWA case? Absolutely. So if you already filed for VAWA, you can attend the interview and bring your receipt to let them know that you filed for VAWA and that you're requesting an abeyance, where basically they put the I-485 on hold, so that they can make a decision on your VAWA. And once they make a decision on the VAWA, they will interview for the 485 and merge the two together, and just remove the one that your spouse filed for you. The I-130 will just basically be removed. So that would be the way to do it. Now, in the past, abeyance requests used to be, I would say, about 85% of the time approved. Now we're seeing more 50-50, just depending on the officer, like where 50% of the time they won't approve it, 50% they will. If they don't approve it, you want to make sure that you're filing your adjustment of status relatively quickly so that they don't place you in deportation proceedings before you can get out a new adjustment of status, okay? Arnold Weeks says, if you get your green card, is it safe to travel and return to America if you overstayed your stay? I've been getting this question a lot, and clearly it seems like people are confused with what a green card is or understanding. So let me explain. A green card is legal permanent resident. Like, you're a legal permanent resident, meaning you absolutely, any overstay you had was forgiven at the time you got your green card. So let's just get that out of the way. So now you are a legal permanent resident of the United States. So what does that mean for you? It means that you can travel. You can make international trips and come back. Now, if you are someone who has criminal records, right, depending on the kind of criminal records or infractions you want to call it, it might not be the best time to travel because they're making certain decisions where they're like, you know what? This is deportable offense. You should not have this green card or whatever it is, and they can do that on their discretion. So it depends on if you have a criminal offense and what kind it was, even though it was in the past. So for most people, I would say, as long as you don't have any arrests or criminal records, if you have a green card is a legal permanent resident. So it allows you to move freely. It allows you to travel freely. That's literally what a green card is. The only thing that the green card doesn't allow you to do is to vote, to run in a federal election, run for office in a federal election, or to be a member of a jury. But otherwise, you have the same privileges here. Okay, the only other thing is if you commit certain crimes, it becomes a deportable offense. Versus if you're a U.S. citizen, then you're a U.S. citizen, and if you commit the crime, but you shouldn't be committed any crime in the first place. So yeah. Okay, so let me jump to. I'm so used to like scrolling through my phone to get the phone whatever. So, does your law firm offer loans or financial assistance to start cases? Yes, we do have payment plans here, and we also have companies that offer loans with different requirements for the loans. So, we're happy to speak with you to see, one, if you're eligible for something. And if you're eligible for something, we can go over our own payment plans and then also the loan companies that we use. And then you can just weigh, which option works best for you. Because, sometimes with the loans, they have different requirements where, you either need to have like a cosigner that's a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, or, you need to have a job with 3, bank statements and making sure that you don't have any insufficient. But we can go through all of that with you, and then you'll see which one works best for you. So Gary, the realist, is saying, are they still doing interviews for VAWAs? So actually, yes. I think a couple of weeks ago, someone asked me this question, and I said I didn't think that they were doing it. So I will say that we've only had one client last year when it first came out be called for an interview. So our clients are not being called for interviews. That being said, I do have colleagues, 1 or 2 who have recently gotten VAWA interviews. And VAWA interviews are different from the interviews that you have after your VAWA case has been approved, which is the one that you would then have for the 485, which is a green card interview. So that is very different from a VAWA interview. A VAWA interview is when they're specifically interviewing you about your VAWA case. So it appears that they still are doing it. We have not seen them in our own office for our own clients. Only the one we had in December. So so maybe not as much, but it's still definitely happening. Okay. What if the tax from 2022 or 2023, for example, as a result of a mistake from a tax person, and you eventually started a payment plan to resolve this? So I'm not sure if I understand, Crystal DeRoche, what you're asking. Are you saying that you owe taxes? If you owe taxes, as long as you have a payment plan to resolve it, that's fine. Again, like I said, what they don't want to see is that you're not, taking the initiative to make your payment plans, that you just kind of leave it there. As long as you're paying your payment plans, you'll be fine. And just to go back to citizenship, since, that's something new that, we can talk about, with the citizenship, they're basically trying to implement a series of new or different things to, according to them, prove that people are worthy of being citizens of the United States. So the first two steps of what they've implemented right now is one, that not only are they looking for an absence of bad moral character, they're looking to see, well, what good have you done in the community, in your community in the US? So, they are saying that they are going to reach out. They could possibly reach out to neighbors. They could possibly reach out like to employers or whatever it is. I'm not really sure how they're going to do that without causing like a ridiculous amount of delays. But it's a good idea to not be enemies with your neighbors right now, or not have conflict with your neighbors. It's also a good idea to find ways that you could make a positive contribution to society, whether that's you volunteering in your place of worship, whether that's you partaking or participating in a nonprofit, or donating to a nonprofit, just being a good person, essentially, just so that if that comes up, like we've not seen anything in the forums that specifically ask that. And honestly, like I'm going to N400 interviews and we're not being asked anything about that, and my clients are getting approved. So I'm not really sure in what context or how they're going to do that, or how they're doing that, but we've not seen anything because, for me, I only tell you what I see. I don't tell you hearsay unless I know for a fact that this is what is being implemented. And then, with the test, if you want to kind of get a preview before the 2025 test comes out, just go look at the one from 2020. Honestly, these questions are not that complicated. They're not that hard. I think what I'm actually going to do, I wanted to start a series on here where I would do like a series of like, are you ready to become a US citizen? And then I will just come on live and like do questions and have you guys answer in the audience, just to help those who might be studying or practicing. One of the things that I personally find very helpful for non-English speakers when they're doing the civics test, because those are the people who will be the most challenged, because it's a different language. So sometimes it's hard to remember all of these things because, you're learning 120 something questions, but you're only going to be asked 20. Well, you're only going to be asked up until you get up to 12 correct. So one of the things that I find to be helpful, more so than study guides in your language, is listening to the questions in English in an American accent, because the likelihood is that the person who is going to be interviewing you is going to obviously be speaking English and they're going to have an American accent. So what I hear from my clients who end up confused, like my non-English speaking clients who end up confused at interviews, is that they don't understand the question because they've been studying it in their language. So while they know the answer, the auditory sound is confusing to them. So you want to listen to it enough in English, like the questions being asked in English. So it's almost like a cramming or memorization. It's what it is, and then focus on the questions that truly you don't know the answers to first, because they're already questions that everybody knows the answers to. Like if someone said, if they ask you the question, who's the president of the United States? Like there's no point of studying that. We know who the president is or the vice president. Well, I hope we all know who the president and the vice president is. Or like if they ask you like a question like, how many public holidays? Name 2 public holidays. I mean, we have in America. It's very simple. Christmas and New Year's, Thanksgiving, Labor Day, so those ones tend to be easy. I find most people have the most challenge with the earlier days during the war and the government. So those are the ones that you really want to make sure that you're focused on first before you go to the easy questions. And that really should help most people pass. Okay. Mike says, after 4 months, I'm still not getting a receipt notice for my VAWA application. Should I be concerned? No, it's annoying, but I wouldn't be concerned. That's just what we're seeing now as the normal timeline for cases that are filed where there's no filing receipt. What I would recommend to you is if you've hired an attorney at this point, because it's been about 120 days, an inquiry can be made to the attorney hotline to see if they can issue that, because, like for me, my baseline here is 90 to 100 days. After that, we want to do an email to see, well, where's the receipt? But we're just definitely seeing a delay, okay? Someone said, I read in one of your posts that VAWA is free, but why do some lawyers still make you pay filing fees even when USCI letter says no filing fee is charged? I can't speak for any lawyers, but as of last year, the filing fees to U.S. citizens immigration is $0 to file for VAWA and an adjustment of status. Now, that is different from an attorney's fee. So I don't know if you're referring to you paying, because you obviously have to pay the attorney to perform a service to you, but there's no filing fee. Before April of last year, there was a filing fee to add the adjustment of status to your VAWA application, which was $1,225. But that has changed. There's no fee for any of the forms as long as it's based on VAWA. So meaning there's no fee for the 485, there's no fee for the work permit, there's no fee for the travel permit if you are filing a VAWA application with it. And I would be concerned if a lawyer after April of 2024 is charging you a fee for that, because that's dishonest. So I hope that's not what's happening with you. My VAWA application is at the 3-year mark. Do you think I will get a decision soon? Yes, I think you'll get a decision soon. We're seeing a lot of the 2022s coming in now. So you will either get a decision soon or you'll get a request for evidence. USCIS right now, let me tell you guys, those of you filing VAWA cases, you better have a strong VAWA application. You better have a strong attorney that you're working with that can respond to evidence, because, like when I tell you, like, the inundation with RFEs for really strong cases where they're requesting more evidence, where they're, where, the way the RFEs look now, in the past, like if they send you a request for evidence, they would say exactly what the problem is. Now, this is what they do. We talk about it at the firm, me and the other lawyers, and we try to figure out why are they sending these when these cases are strong. But, we feel it's kind of a way to stop people from saying, well, you haven't made a decision on my case, because sometimes we will get a blank RFE. Like, there is no request for anything, just blank. And we have to reply them and say, you literally sent us a blank RFE. So now what the RFEs look like for valid cases, they just put an X mark. They'll put an X mark. So like they'll say they may say like good faith marriage or a battery or, cohabitation or good moral character or biometrics or signature. And they just put an X mark and they basically have you figure out what it is that's missing, which is, let me save my call for words, but yeah, it's very frustrating. So yeah. Okay, so let's see what other questions we have on Instagram. Facebook was super active today with questions, so let me not neglect my IG people. What is the actual fee for an EAD renewal? The fee is different for every single case type, and it's all dependent on what case you filed. Was a filing fee paid before? So I can't answer that without knowing exactly what you filed, what date you filed, and all of that stuff. Yeah, and if you paid a fee. Okay, so my wife doesn't want to attend the interview with me. Can I file for VAWA? So it's important to know that because your spouse and you are having problems doesn't, like your wife choosing not to attend the interview with you doesn't make you eligible for VAWA. Okay, so what makes you eligible for VAWA is to show that your spouse is abusive. Now, your wife choosing not to attend the interview with you can raise a red flag, because what kind of spouse will do that, right? So you're the kind of person that would need to get a screening to make sure and understand your relationship with your spouse and why your spouse will be willing to do that, knowing that it will basically land you in deportation, because I always try to say that, as someone who's married, and as someone who counsels thousands of married people by the very nature of the work that we do, it is not normal for your spouse to want the worst for you. It is not normal. You can be pissed off at your spouse all you want. You could have had an argument with your spouse, but most arguments are temporary. You don't want your spouse to be separated from you or from their family or from their children, because, as we would say in Nigeria, that is something very wicked. That is a very wicked act. So when someone says, my spouse is not going to show up for the interview, knowing how hot immigration is right now and how under siege and attack immigrants are, it's always a good idea to check with an attorney so they can screen you to make sure that you meet all the elements of VAWA, to make sure that you're eligible, because that can be one thing of many, but that's one thing without, where you need more than just that. So I hope that is clear. Can you apply for citizenship if you're on SNAP benefits and rental assistance? Yes, you can. And please note that public charge only applies when you are filing for a green card. It doesn't have any relevancy to citizenship. It's not part of the citizen application. Okay. Okay, a few questions are about their wives being difficult, not showing up for the interview. Same advice, give us a call. We're happy to screen you to see if you are eligible to file for VAWA. Can you apply for citizenship if you have a 10-year green card through VAWA, if you marry a U.S. citizen but are separated? So if you got your green card through VAWA, you'll be eligible to apply for citizenship based on VAWA at the 3-year mark, whether or not you and your current U.S. citizen are separated or not, okay? Can I adopt my sister? She's a minor, to give her residence, since the process to apply for a sister takes 13 plus years. Well, it depends on how old your sister is, and it depends on what you're willing to sacrifice to do that, because one, she has to be under 16. That's number one. Number two, that you have to approve a 2-year residency with her. Might be easy for you because she's your sibling. So at some point you did live with her, but basically you want to show that you've lived with her for 2 years. They don't necessarily count. They're not necessarily going to count it at a 2-year timeline. They're going to count 2 years in totality. So if you're able to show that, like, she's basically been under your care for 2 years or whatever the case may be, then that is something that you can potentially do. But you have to have gone there, meaning you have to count 2 years of your time there to do it. Cook with Ashley says, I have an approved VAWA. How long does it take to get an immigration court date? I don't know. Are you in deportation proceedings? Because if you have an approved VAWA and you're not in deportation proceedings, you would be moving to an interview with USCIS, not with court. So if you can clarify that for me. My spouse has a B1, B2 visa, and I applied back in June. For his I-130, does he need to travel with any document when he comes to the US? I'm not sure I understand your question, honestly. Like, are you saying that he's coming to visit, and you want to do an adjustment? Like, I'm not sure I understand the question. Okay. Okay, let's see. My partner and I applied for marriage base, and right after we submitted our application, my partner lost their job. Will that affect our application? We haven't had any kind of response since we replied. As long as your partner met the I-864 requirement at the time you submitted the initial application, then you'll be fine. If they didn't meet that and then you get a request for evidence, you will need a joint sponsor. But if they met that income and you provided enough evidence to show that they met that income before you submitted, you should be okay. and hopefully you or them will get a job before your interview, because sometimes during the interview they may ask, where are you working, or do you still work, or something like that. Okay, let's see what else we got. Gary the Realist says, thank you, best immigration lawyer ever. Thank you so much. Is DUI a deportable offense? Does it affect a pending VAWA application? The answer really is it depends. Have we had lots of people with DUIs that we reached the finish line of U.S. citizenship for them? Sure. In this administration, we always want to see, well, what is it? Like, was someone harmed? What was it? Was it a first-time offense? Are they saying you're a habitual drunk? Are there more than one DUI? So there's a lot of variables, basically, that we want to look at to see how that plays. And I've been waiting for almost 10 years to be called for an interview. What could be wrong? A lot. That is a really, really long time. I don't know what kind of case you have, but that is problematic. Please schedule a consultation with us. Let's see if it's something that we can assist you with, but 10 years is a really, really long time. How do you confirm if your request for abeyance was granted, especially if you have received a receipt notice for the EAD and parole renewal filed on VAWA? So it's really hard because you don't. The best way is when you physically give it to the officer at the interview, because then they will acknowledge it. But otherwise, the way that we just know that they've accepted their abeyance is after they were scheduled for an interview, and if it was or we mailed like an abeyance and they renewed that work permit and travel permit, knowing that we have a VAWA case, then we know that it's been approved. But still, with abeyance cases, I don't recommend travel. If you didn't physically hand that to the officer, telling them you're doing an abeyance, because sometimes they may not reply and then later on just deny that abeyance. So let me correct myself. When I say I don't recommend travel, I mean, I don't recommend international travel. That's what I mean by that. But, you can do your local travel. That's fine. All right, guys. I just saw the time. I got to jump off, guys. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I might try to come on tomorrow, and I'm going to do like my started with do a citizenship, let's see how prepared you are to be a U.S. citizen. We can do like a quiz or whatever it is with you guys. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will chat with you all later. Bye.